My name is Omar Montanez, and today we will be talking about who is morally responsible for environmental harm. So, when we talk about environmental problems like climate change, the responsibility is often framed as personal. We're told to recycle more, waste less, and make better everyday choices. But this raises a deeper ethical question. Is it fair to place more responsibility on individuals, or should that responsibility fall more heavily on larger systems like corporations, governments, and even the powerful individuals who lead them? So, from one perspective, individuals clearly do have some level of moral responsibility. And philosopher Peter Singer argues that if we're able to reduce harm without significant sacrifice, we have a moral obligation to do so. So, applied to environmental issues, this would mean making more sustainable choices whenever possible. According to the Carbon Majors Report in 2017, a relatively small number of corporations are responsible for a majority of global greenhouse gas emissions. This suggests that widespread individual action may not be enough to address the problem at its core. So that brings us to corporations, and more importantly, the individuals who lead them. Corporations are not abstract entities. They're shaped by decisions made by executives and CEOs who determine production methods, energy use, and long-term strategy. For example, investigations by Inside Climate News into a famous company known as ExxonMobil found that the company had internal knowledge about climate change risks as early as the 1970s. Yet, they continued to expand fossil fuel production. This highlights an important ethical point. When individuals have both knowledge and decision-making, their moral responsibility increases. This idea is developed further by philosopher Iris Marianne Young, who argues that in large structural systems, responsibility is shared but not equal. Instead of blaming everyone the same, Young suggests that we should look at how much power each actor has to influence outcomes. Those with greater control over systems, such as corporate leaders and policymakers, carry greater responsibility. This framework helps explain why focusing only on individual behavior can be misleading. It ignores how much influence is concentrated at the top. Governments also play a central role in shaping environmental outcomes. Policies determine what behaviors are encouraged, what industries are supported, and what practices are regulated. For example, the International Energy Agency has documented that many governments continue to subsidize fossil fuels, making environmentally harmful practices easier to continue. At the same time, reports from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and the United Nations Environment Program show that current global efforts are not enough to meet climate targets. This reinforces the idea that environmental harm is not just the result of an individual's choice, but of the system that shapes these choices. At this point, the ethical issue becomes one of fairness. Is it reasonable to place the same level of blame on individuals who have limited control as on institutions and leaders who shape the system itself? In reality, most people operate within constraints. Cost, access, infrastructure. Not everyone can afford sustainable alternatives, and not every community has the same options. This does not eliminate individual responsibility, but it does limit it. So, when we step back and look at the full picture, responsibility really becomes intricately layered. Individuals do contribute, and in many cases, they should act more responsibly when they can, but corporations, governments, and especially powerful individuals like CEOs operate on a completely different scale. Their decisions affect millions of people and shape the conditions that everyone else lives in. In the end, this isn't just a question about environmental harm. It's really a question about justice. If responsibility is tied to power, knowledge, and the ability to create change, then it cannot be distributed equally. The reality is that individuals are being asked to solve a problem that is largely shaped by systems they did not design and they have no say or control in. That doesn't mean people have no responsibility, but it does mean that focusing primarily on personal behavior risks overlooking where the greatest impact and therefore the greatest responsibility actually lies. So maybe the real ethical question isn't, are people doing enough? Maybe it's, why do we expect the least powerful to carry the greatest burden while those with the most remain the least accountable? That's all I've got for you today. Thank you for watching. My name is Omar Montanez.